I turned 83 this winter. Not the dramatic kind of 83 you see in movies. No grand speeches, no perfect wisdom, no sudden enlightenment. Just a quiet morning, warm tea in my hands, sunlight falling across the table like it had done thousands of times before. Only now I noticed it differently. When you get old, luxury stops meaning what it used to mean. It isn't expensive watches. It isn't big houses. It isn't proving anything to anyone. Luxury becomes peace. And strangely, the things that make retirement feel luxurious are not expensive at all. I didn't learn this early. I spent decades chasing noise, work deadlines, bigger goals, more money, more recognition. And yet the real upgrades that transform my retirement cost less than most people spend on coffee in a week. So if you're heading toward retirement or already there and wondering why it doesn't feel the way you imagined, let me share 12 simple upgrades that changed everything for me. Not theories, not trends, just lessons from a long life. The first upgrade is slowing your mornings down. When I first retired, I woke up at the same rushed pace as when I worked. Alarm clock, quick breakfast, mind already racing, but there was nowhere to go. And one morning, I realized I was carrying old urgency into a new chapter. So I stopped. I began waking without alarms when possible. I sat quietly before touching my phone. I watched the light change through the window. That small change turned mornings into something sacred. Luxury is not rushing when you don't have to. Second, better seating. You laugh, but I'm serious. For years I sat on chairs that looked good but felt terrible. When I retired, I bought one comfortable chair. Not expensive, just thoughtfully chosen. It became my reading chair, my thinking chair, my afternoon rest spot. When your body slows, comfort becomes a form of respect for yourself. Third, good lighting. You don't realize how harsh or dull your home feels until you change the lighting. Soft lamps instead of harsh overhead lights changed the mood of my evenings. The house felt calmer. I felt calmer. Luxury is atmosphere. An atmosphere is often just a switch away. Fourth, a daily walk, even when you don't feel like it. I resisted this one. I thought walks were boring. But after retirement, I noticed something dangerous. Days could disappear without movement. So I began walking every morning. Not for fitness, for presence. I started noticing birds, neighbors, smells from kitchens, children laughing in the distance. Walking reconnected me with the world after years of living inside my head. Fifth, fewer possessions. Retirement gave me time to see how much I owned and how little of it mattered. One afternoon, I began giving things away. Old clothes, boxes of useless items, things kept out of habit. As my home emptied, my mind felt lighter. Luxury is space, not just physical space, emotional space. Sixth, better food, simpler meals. When I was younger, meals were rushed. Convenience ruled everything. Now I cook slowly. Simple ingredients, fresh vegetables. Tea brewed patiently instead of thrown together. Eating became an experience again instead of fuel between tasks. Luxury is giving time back to ordinary rituals. Seventh, silence. For decades, I filled silence with television, radio, background noise. After retirement, I began turning things off. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like sitting alone with someone you don't know well. Then slowly, silence became a friend. In silence, memories rise. Gratitude appears. Thoughts settle. Silence is the cheapest luxury nobody talks about. Eighth, handwritten notes. I started writing letters again, not emails, not texts. Actual letters to friends, family, even to myself. There is something intimate about writing slowly. It forces honesty. and receiving a handwritten note feels like receiving time itself. Ninth, one meaningful hobby. Retirement can feel empty if you don't choose something that pulls you forward. For me, it was gardening. I knew nothing about plants at first. I failed often. But watching something grow because of your care gives purpose to quiet days. Luxury is feeling useful without pressure. 10th, saying no without guilt. This one took me decades to learn, because for most of my life, I believed kindness meant constant availability. When you're young, you say yes to avoid disappointing people, to be liked, to maintain harmony even when something feels wrong inside. Each agreement feels small in the moment, but over time, those small compromises accumulate into exhaustion. I used to carry obligations like heavy stones in my pockets, afraid that setting boundaries would make me appear selfish or cold. In retirement, I learned that protecting my energy is not rejection. It is self-respect. Saying no became an act of quiet clarity rather than confrontation. No to draining conversations. No to commitments that created tension instead of joy. No to expectations that belonged to others, not to me. Every no created space. Space for rest, reflection, and presence. And strangely, the more honest I became with my limits, the more genuine my yeses felt. Boundaries did not shrink my world. They refined it. 11th, comfortable clothing. There was a time when appearance mattered more than comfort. I dressed to impress, choosing tight shoes, stiff fabrics, and formal pieces that looked polished but felt restrictive. Clothing became a performance, a way to signal status or seriousness. I ignored the small discomforts, the pinching seams, the heavy collars, believing that elegance required sacrifice. I never questioned how much energy was spent simply tolerating what I wore. Now I choose comfort without apology. Clothes that breathe, shoes that support, fabrics that move with my body instead of against it. The shift seems simple, but it changed how I move through the day. Slower, calmer, more present. Physical ease creates mental ease. When the body relaxes, the mind follows. You'd be surprised how much dignity comes from feeling physically at peace within your own skin. True luxury is not excess. It is alignment between body and life. 12th, gratitude rituals. Gratitude did not come naturally to me at first. I used to rush through days, measuring them by productivity or outcomes rather than experience. Even good moments slipped by unnoticed because I was already thinking about what came next. It wasn't until later in life that I began to pause intentionally, creating a small evening ritual where I sit quietly and remember 3 things I appreciated that day. At first it felt simple, almost insignificant, but repetition turned it into something sacred. Some days the gratitude is large and obvious, like a long conversation with someone I love or a meaningful accomplishment. Other days it is subtle. Warm sunlight on my hands, a kind smile from a stranger, the comfort of a familiar routine. This practice reshaped my perception of time. Instead of waiting for extraordinary moments, I began to recognize richness in ordinary hours. Gratitude turns ordinary days into meaningful ones, and meaningful days create a sense of quiet luxury that no material possession can match. When I was younger, I thought retirement would be one grand moment. A finish line. It isn't. It's quieter. It's slower. It's less about achieving and more about noticing. Some people enter retirement waiting for happiness to arrive automatically. But happiness doesn't come from stopping work. It comes from changing how you live. These 12 upgrades didn't cost much money, but they required something harder. Attention. Attention to how you sit, how you wake, how you eat, how you walk, how you spend your hours. At 83, I don't need more possessions. I don't need status. I don't need noise. What I need is enough light to read by, a comfortable chair, a path to walk, and people to love. That's what luxury became for me. And maybe, if you're willing to see it differently, it can become that for you too. Because the richest years of life are not the ones where you have the most. They are the ones where you finally understand what is enough.